Delta Species cards, available in only a handful of sets during the EX Ruby and Sapphire era of the Pokemon TCG. These cards were very cool and unique. If a card was a Delta Species card, it essentially meant that the Pokemon was of an abnormal typing. An example of this is the Delta Species Dragonite EX from EX Dragon Frontiers. As you can see, it is a grass type, even though Dragonite is normally a dragon flying type. As mentioned before, these cards were only available in a handful of sets during the EX Ruby and Sapphire era and have not been seen since. But I think that there is a good chance that we could possibly see Delta Species cards make a return during the Scarlet and Violet era of the Pokemon TCG. But before we dive into what we can hopefully expect to see in the future, let's briefly take a look back at the history of Delta Species cards in the Pokemon TCG. Delta Species cards were first introduced in the set EX Delta Species. Released on October 31st, 2005, this set contains some very cool new cards, such as Dragonite, Tyranitar, Salamence, and Metagross Delta Species. One important thing to note is that in this set, all of the Delta Species cards had this gray color scheme throughout the card. The next set to be released on February 13th, 2006 was EX Legend Makers, and unfortunately did not contain any Delta Species cards except for the box topper, which was a Pikachu Delta Species. But these cards would make a return for the next three sets that followed, those being EX Howlin' Phantoms, which released on May 3rd, 2006, EX Crystal Guardians, which released on August 30th, 2006, and EX Dragon Frontiers, which released on November 8th, 2006. Unfortunately, the final set of the Ruby and Sapphire era, EX Power Keepers, released on February 14th, 2007, did not contain any Delta Species cards, meaning EX Dragon Frontiers was the final set to contain these cards, and only these four sets even had these cards to begin with. Unlike in EX Delta Species, where all the Delta Species cards had this gray color scheme, the other three sets had Delta Species cards with color schemes which matched that of its typing, which provided some phenomenal cards such as the ones you are seeing right now. We also got to see EX Delta Species cards in the sets EX Dragon Frontiers and EX Crystal Guardians, as well as three Gold Star Delta Species cards, which included Gold Star Gyarados in EX Howlin' Phantoms, and Gold Star Charizard and Gold Star Mew, both in EX Dragon Frontiers. As mentioned before, EX Dragon Frontiers unfortunately was the final set to contain Delta Species cards, and we have not seen them since. Although I am going to make the prediction that there is a chance we might see these cards return during the Scarlet and Violet era of the Pokemon TCG, and I have a good reason for making this claim. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the new gimmick introduced was Terastallizing. Terastallizing is where a Pokemon becomes almost crystallized and can take on any type there is. Sound familiar? Delta Species cards were cards that had Pokemon of abnormal typing and could pretty much take on any type there is. Taking this a step further, Delta Species cards were introduced during the EX Ruby and Sapphire era, where we also first saw EX cards. Not uppercase EX cards, but lowercase EX cards. And it has already been announced that the special cards for the Scarlet and Violet era will in fact be lowercase EX cards. See the similarities and connections? Now this last point might be a bit of a stretch, but one of the sets to feature Delta Species cards was EX Crystal Guardians, where the artwork of many cards in the set featured crystals in some way, especially the Delta Species cards. Will we actually see Delta Species cards make a return to the Pokemon TCG? I cannot say for sure, but there are a lot of signs that would suggest that they are. And I sure do hope that they do in fact return so we can get the opportunity to see these phenomenal cards once again. And that is all for the video today. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think we will see Delta Species cards make a return during the Scarlet and Violet era of the Pokemon TCG. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and this is the Pokeplaya signing out.